Hi everyone, and welcome to my fall series. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I'd love it if you click that button. For this DIY, you're going to need a Dollar Tree maple leaf and a stain of your choice. I'm using this water-based acrylic stain. It's down below in my description box. There's a link that will take you to it on the Amazon store. I like this very much because it has no odor. I'm in a small room crafting and try my best to try and avoid noxious fumes. I hope I used the right word, noxious fumes, but this has no odor, so for me it's really appealing. And I did add a little bit of water because it does tend to soak in really fast and hard and often too dark when it's raw wood like this, and I kind of wanted to control how dark it was going to be. And on this craft, I do stain the front and the back. This part is a little different, I know, but I wanted burlap on wire, and the only way I could think to accomplish this was to cut the wire off of this ribbon. I'm going to set that ribbon aside and use it for another craft, but this gave me that spindly little, like, you can see what I'm doing there, I'm kind of bunching it up. It's kind of like a messy bow, but it's all wires. I just wanted it to kind of resemble more like a woodsy look or branches because this is a maple leaf, so I didn't want it, you know, the craft to be completely droopy. So that was how I went about doing that. And for this one, I'm going to use the actual ribbon. So I cut the wire off and I'm going to cut this ribbon in half. And this one, I do want it to flow gently down the maple leaf. And here's a little trick, I've shown it before, but if you just float a flame over the edge of your ribbon, it will completely stop it from fraying because these ribbons are usually polyester and it just lightly melts the edges and seals them up nicely for you. So I knew the stem of the maple leaf was very narrow and it was going to be a bit of a challenge to put a lot of flowing ribbon hanging off of it on such a small stem without it bulging over the side. And I didn't want a big bow at the top because that would cover the maple leaf shape. So I tied this really narrow at the top for now and I set it aside. And then I took some of the Dollar Tree hula skirt and I did the same thing. I just took about, what are those, like 8 strips maybe of the hula skirt, and I'm tying it into a thin knot at the top. So this turns out skinny enough where I feel comfortable gluing it on the front, plus I'm after that little spray right there that I trimmed. I think that looks really neat. That adds that scarecrow kind of fall vibe. And I'm taking some actual raffia here and tying it around the stem to give the stem a little bit more of a subtle bulk. You know, I'm just trying to get all these little things on there in a way where it will cover it up because I'm going to be gluing the buffalo ribbon on the back behind all of that. Using the Dollar Tree lace ribbon, I'm just wrapping it around the width of my hand because we're going to make a nice little bow here and spray it out. And this is just your simple bow where you tie it in the middle with some of the Dollar Tree twine. I take some of that lace ribbon and bend it in half, not completely even. One of the lengths is a little shorter than the other and I glue that down because that side was a little empty, but there I go, I'm gluing that bow on that I just made. You can see the twine in the middle. All I did was tie it in the middle with twine, and here comes our spindly little, I don't know, fallish kind of decor embellishment. And I glued the berries on the top and a button, and then last we're just going to outline that with the black marker pen because I didn't feel like the maple leaf stood out enough. And to make a really cute complimentary hanger, I'm going to string up these wood beads and glue them on the back. And a lot of you may know this trick already. I just put a little hot glue on the end of that twine there because it was fraying and getting more difficult to thread. Wait till it cools down, that it's comfortable enough to touch. Spin it with your fingers, and then you have a nice stiff end to go ahead and finish threading it through the wooden beads. So you do have to glue it on the edge of the fall leaf there, or it will kind of squish together, but I think this came up gorgeous. For this next DIY, you're going to need this free printable I designed. It's down below in my description box. And again, I printed it up on tissue paper. All I did was just tape tissue paper onto computer paper and ran it through. And you're going to need some paint sticks. And shout out to Christina for sending me the paint sticks. Thank you so much. And I'm just going to bunch all of these paint sticks together. I use 10 altogether for this craft. So I bunch 8 up. And then I take one, cut it, and then the other one and cut it. And I'm going to glue it on either end so that it's like a palette sign. Country farmhouse signs, anything that's kind of rustic or primitive is one of the few times I don't mind the end of the paint sticks showing. I think it adds to the craft, those little holes in between. I just kind of alternate them, and sometimes I leave 2 together because it just looks like the wood is kind of chipping out or whatever. I don't know. I think it gives a nice edge or design to the sign. Not always, but some crafts I really like that, and this is one of them. So I'm just cutting this out kind of in a, I'm not doing a square. You can see what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of cutting around the shape of the printout. And it's because the tissue paper, you can hardly see it unless you walk up close. So it doesn't have to be a perfect square or torn edges. It's just, I love this method. I don't know why, I just do. And we're just taking good old fashioned Mod Podge, and we're going to Mod Podge this puppy down. So you can see how the paint already filled in the lines in between the paint sticks, and I just decide to roll with it and keep it that way once I glue the paper on as well. And these are easy DIYs this week, you guys. I thought I should bring some of those out because I know a lot of you guys like those too, ones that look super cute and don't require hours and hours of crafting. This is one of the pluses with using tissue paper for sure, is you definitely do not need water. There is enough moisture in that Mod Podge that you can just stick it down, and you can lift it back up if you're really gentle, just like you saw me do there, and reposition it and rub out with a dry finger all of the wrinkles. And paper is much different. Paper wants to crinkle up, it wants to wrinkle and buckle. You have to put a little water on it. It's a completely different game when you're using tissue paper, and I really appreciate that aspect of it for sure. So you saw me give it a quick little dry there, and I'm just taking a craft knife and cutting any of the paper out of those holes because that doesn't look quite natural enough. I don't like it. Super easy to do. You can see me doing it right there. It just slices right off. And now I'm taking some of the free wood I've spoken about in past videos that's called dunnage blocks, D-U-N-N-A-G-E, dunnage blocks. They throw them out usually at Home Depot or Lowe's or I think it's most lumber yards. And if you've got a nice manager, they will give it to you, and you can cut them up and use them for bases, and they're very heavy, and best of all, they're free. And that's just a scrap piece of wood on the back, and we're going to use this as the stand to hold this cute little sign up. And then I thought it would be fun to add a little Spanish moss at the bottom to make it have a farm feel, because that's definitely autumn, even if you don't do farmhouse. I've spoken about that in videos too, with all the pumpkin patches and hay rides, and you do end up doing the farm thing. So I put a little Spanish moss down, and if you wanted to make this a Halloween craft, you could easily put the little Dollar Tree pumpkins at the bottom and make them little jack-o'-lanterns and hang some cobwebs off the top. You could actually make this sign either or. It's a very versatile sign because there are real inns in the United States called Sleepy Hollow Inn, which I thought was so cute. So it's definitely a versatile craft. I decided to do a non-spooky theme and just stick with the cute little craft farmhouse type things. So I'm just making a simple bow out of the black and white buffalo check ribbon there. I wrapped it in twine and we're shaping it a little bit there, and that's it. I wanted to keep mine really simple. Now, I didn't know if I should add pumpkins on the bottom or not, and I would love to hear back from you guys. I just want to take this moment to say a big thank you to those of you that have been sending me craft supply packages. This is the US postage, you guys, and these are the last packages I picked up, and I literally felt terrible when I saw the postage. It is just outrageously expensive, and I support government jobs, but I am just not comfortable allowing my YouTube friends to spend that kind of money to support my channel. So I asked my husband, there's got to be another way. And he did some research and found a site called Buy Me a Coffee. And it's literally like the price of a mocha frappuccino. You can send a little donation to me and I get the money more or less directly. I mean, there are some fees with PayPal, but compared to the post office, it's just better for everybody all the way around. I have free shipping through Amazon. Everything that I need pretty much is online. And anyway, I love you guys, but it's just out of my comfort zone to allow you to spend hundreds of dollars in postage to help me with some craft supplies. So for those of you that do want to support my channel, the link is down below in my description box, and thank you so much. For this next craft, you're going to need this Dollar Tree cute little pillow, some burlap, and a pumpkin template, and some buttons or any kind of embellishment you'd like. I'm going with some buttons that I took off from another craft. Some of you may remember I painted a chocolate box. It had some buttons on the top there, and I took those and saved those because they were wood. Yes. And I'm just taking my pen and tracing out the pumpkin shape. This is a really simple, fast DIY, but it's one of those really simple, classy, clean. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. Sometimes with crafts, less is more. It just ends up looking really, really sharp. So I cut out a pumpkin shape with a burlap. I glue it onto the front of this pillow, and I'm going to put some embellishment on, and that's it. These pillows, I hope you can find them because they are, they scream sweater weather. They are the perfect cozy little pillow for fall and Christmas coming up. I bought 4 of them, and I've got some great ideas coming up, but they're already done. They're already furry and soft and cute, and they make excellent stuff, like little stuffers for baskets or metal big crates that you have. It depends what kind of decor you're doing, but these little tiny pillows are great accent decor pieces. For this next craft, you're going to need this size foam pumpkin from the Dollar Tree and a smaller foam pumpkin from the Dollar Tree. And I had an old rollaway bed I finally threw away, and my husband cut some of these up for me because those little springs are very on trend. You can get them on eBay, I think for like $1 or $2. They're super cheap. Or you can use one of these candle stands from the Dollar Tree. There's several options there. You would have to kind of look around, see what base you want, but you can do this craft with any base of your choice. And I start off by pulling those flowers off, and I just want to tone this pumpkin down. He's a little too bright for the look I'm going to be going for. I'm going for a really soft. It's kind of neutral, but it's got the hint of orange and just the hint of green in these pumpkins. So I start off with the antique parchment from Apple Barrel, and I try it, and it's still a little too orangey. You can't see it on camera, but it's still too dark for what I was going for. So I'm letting it finish drying over there in the upper left hand corner, and now I'm going to start working on my bigger pumpkin. We're just removing the cloth here, and underneath comes these little foam pumpkins. They're so versatile and fun. And I just give him a quick coat of white, and now I'm taking we're upping our ante a little bit. We're using chalk paint now, homemade chalk paint, so that I get better coverage, and I'm giving him one more coat. And then I'm going to use a green paint on this one. You can use whatever green paint you want. This is a color from Joann's Fabric. I believe it's called leaf green. I just think it looks really, pretty and perfect for this season. But you can find this color in Apple Barrel. I've seen it. And you can also find it in the Waverly chalk paint. And of course, you can always home make it too. You can take a green and just add white until you get this color. But it's still a little too dark. So I end up taking some of my white paint, just brushing it on, and I am using a tissue, not a wipe, because this is foam and I don't want to get it too wet. I'm using a regular old Kleenex, and I just dry brush a little bit of the white paint on and then wipe it and smear it with the tissue. And then when both of these are dry, I decide I'd like to kind of keep that theme with this lace. I've got that going on in my home for this year for fall, so I kind of like to stay in themes. I think that's fun. So we're going to make another looped bow where I just wrapped it around my fingers again, tied it in the middle with the twine, and then we're going to spread it out into like a nice little flower shape. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this on the top of my pumpkin, and this actually kind of reminds me of that little leather pumpkin that I made in my first fall video. Maybe it was my second fall video, and I said it reminded me of a steampunk pumpkin when I was done, and I've got that in the home, so that's one of my themes. So I thought we're kind of going to stay in there. You can see I'm experimenting with a little stained wooden bead there for a stem. But before I do that, I just want to give this a little bit more raffia. I love raffia at fall. I just love to add it as an accent. So I loop it around, tie it, stick a little bit under that ribbon, glue my little stained wooden bead. I didn't film that because I figure you guys know, it's self-explanatory. I just stained the bead with a little bit of that water-based stain. And then I'm just shoving some raffia down the center here, using my hot glue gun to hold it down flat. And then I'm going to hold the other little pumpkin on top of it while it dries so that it all dries nice and flat. And now I'm just holding it up and kind of visualizing where it's going to hang, and I'm cutting off the pieces that are a little bent and wonky. And then we're going to go ahead and make like a little bird's nest out of the Spanish moss so that it has a nice little base to sit on. And I am going to hot glue it down just a little bit. Now off camera, I do hot glue underneath because I'm choosing to use the spring as my base, but I want to stage it and show you guys with both bases, the little candle pillar and the spring. You let me know which one you guys like better, but that's it. And I think that this craft came up so beautiful. if you had fun today, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. And as always, until the next video, breathe deep, fret not, and do things that make you happy.